This wasn't a trade dispute. It was an ambush. Overnight, Beijing shut off the lifeline of America's factories, cutting lithium and battery exports that power everything from Ford trucks to Pentagon drones. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned the White House at 3 a.m. "We're out of supply by Friday." Within hours, Detroit's production screens went black, stock futures plunged, and Trump's promise to make America independent collapsed in real time. Because China didn't retaliate, it pulled the plug. In public, President Trump calls the move empty retaliation. In private, aides describe the situation as uncharted territory. For decades, the United States depended on China for over 80% of cathode and anode materials, data confirmed by the International Energy Agency in its 2024 Battery Minerals Report. Trump's tariffs were supposed to cut that dependence. Instead, they've collided with a choke point that Beijing designed years earlier, one built through global control of mining, refining, and midstream manufacturing. Markets respond within hours. The Bloomberg Commodity Index jumps 2.8% as prices for processed lithium carbonate surge to $12,000 per ton. Analysts at Goldman Sachs, quoted by the Financial Times, warn that no Western producer can scale output fast enough to replace Chinese supply before 2028. Yet Trump insists the U.S. has plenty of options. Evidence suggests otherwise. In 2025, USGS data showed that the United States produced less than 1% of global rare earth oxides and, well, zero battery-grade manganese. Even after billions from the Inflation Reduction Act, the mines in Nevada and North Carolina remain in pilot stages. According to Reuters, the Thacker Pass lithium project will not reach commercial output until 2027. That leaves automakers like Ford, GM, and Tesla exposed, each relying on Chinese cathode inputs for nearly two-thirds of their EV models. Meanwhile, China's export data tell a different story. Customs figures from December 2025 reveal that total rare earth shipments dropped 31% year-on-year, marking the steepest decline since 2019. State-linked traders told Reuters the delay came from new license requirements for magnet producers in Inner Mongolia. These are the same magnets that power F-35 fighter jets, wind turbines, and electric trucks. Washington once called them critical to national security. Now they're rationed at Beijing's discretion. Inside the Pentagon, procurement officers warn that defense suppliers have less than 6 months of neodymium stocks. The U.S. Defense Logistics Agency, in an internal note cited by the Wall Street Journal, describes the shortage as manageable through 2026 if allocations hold. But allocations are not holding. Soybean futures collapsed the same morning. Bloomberg data confirmed that China imported 12.87 million tons of soybeans in December 2025, nearly all from Brazil and Argentina. None came from the United States. The USDA's weekly export report lists, zero outstanding sales to China for the first time since 2008. That decision alone erased an estimated $3.4 billion in farm revenue within 3 weeks. Farmers call it déjà vu. During the 2018 to 2019 trade war, Washington issued $28 billion in bailouts to offset Chinese tariffs. Analysts at the American Farm Bureau Federation now estimate that the next relief round could exceed $35 billion, given higher production costs and interest rates above 7% on farm loans. Yet those loans are already underwater. The Federal Reserve's December 2025 Ag Finance Review shows interest expenses consuming 7% of total farm costs, the highest ratio in 20 years. Let's stop here. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not again, not this fast. In Trump's second term, tariffs were meant to force reshoring, but the reshoring itself depends on the very materials now locked behind Chinese export walls. Reuters. In December 2025, documented Beijing's extension of export controls to 7 heavy rare earths, samarium, dysprosium, and lutetium among them. Those are essential to advanced magnets and laser guidance systems. The White House framed it as proof that, quote, China is panicking. But if Beijing were panicking, why do global markets keep tilting towards Shanghai? China's moves align with a long-range industrial policy. In 2024, its Ministry of Industry and Information Technology began classifying magnet producers by national security importance. By the end of 2025, those same firms accounted for 90% of global magnet exports. The Financial Times, citing trade filings, noted that Beijing has succeeded in turning critical minerals dependency into a policy lever equivalent to the dollar. That phrase matters, equivalent to the dollar. Trump's countermeasure, a proposed 100% tariff on Chinese imports in October 2025, which was reduced and sits at 10% as of January 2026. The Peterson Institute for International Economics calculated that a tariff of that magnitude would raise consumer prices on EVs by up to $11,000 per unit and reduce annual demand by 40%. The cost of economic patriotism, as one Republican senator called it, would be measured not in jobs saved but in purchasing power lost. Beijing's calculus appears simpler. By reducing exports of upstream materials, it pushes global manufacturers to move downstream production into China. BYD, already the world's largest EV maker, delivered 580,000 vehicles in the fourth quarter of 2025, surpassing Tesla's 500,000 according to Bloomberg's quarterly filings review. Reuters reported that BYD's new plants in Brazil and Thailand are being supplied entirely with Chinese cathodes, bypassing Western tariffs altogether. In that light, the export curbs look less like retaliation and more like vertical consolidation. Beijing turning supply chains into strategic assets. Trump calls it cheating. Economists at the IMF in their December 2025 World Economic Outlook call it industrial hedging, the use of production bottlenecks to control price volatility. Whether strategic or defensive, the outcome is identical. The West pays more, and China gains negotiating leverage. Across Europe, alarm spreads. The European Commission's Trade Directorate warned in December 2025 that Chinese curbs could disrupt as much as 50% of European semiconductor and defense production capacity. That statement, reported by Reuters in December, underscores how the US-China confrontation now pulls allies into its orbit of shortages. Inside Washington, divisions widen. Treasury argues for diplomacy, while Commerce pushes for escalation. The Defense Department fears resource vulnerability more than tariff optics. One senior official told the Wall Street Journal that you can print dollars but not dysprosium. Back on Wall Street, traders watch the yuan hold steady despite tariff threats. Bloomberg's foreign exchange desk attributes this to China's new gold settlement system, which channels mineral export payments through Shanghai in yuan or gold, insulating it from U.S. financial sanctions. In effect, Beijing is proving that commodity leverage can counter monetary dominance. When questioned, the White House blames market speculation, yet evidence shows otherwise. Global auto manufacturers, Volkswagen, Hyundai, Toyota, confirmed delays of 6 to 8 months on battery deliveries. The Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association states publicly that critical mineral supply chains have shifted decisively toward Chinese jurisdiction. That is diplomatic language for dependency. By now, Trump's political calculus grows narrower. With elections just 2 years away and farm lobbies demanding subsidies, the administration drafts a new $12 billion farmer relief package in December 2025, modeled on the 2019 Market Facilitation Program. But unlike 2019, debt costs have doubled. The Congressional Budget Office projects the federal deficit to hit $2.4 trillion in 2026, driven partly by tariff-related bailouts and defense procurement overruns caused by raw material shortages. At the same time, Beijing tightens another screw. Reuters on December 4, 2025 confirmed that China suspended soybean import licenses for 3 major U.S. grain traders, CHS Incorporated, Louis Dreyfus, and EGT. Officially, the suspension cited logistical irregularities. Unofficially, they functioned as leverage ahead of Trump's tariff vote. Each suspension ripples through rural economies. In Illinois, soybean prices fall below production cost, roughly $11.20 per bushel, according to USDA's October estimates. Machinery sales decline 15%, fertilizer demand plunges, and banks restrict new credit lines. Economically, this is not retaliation, it's attrition. China's Ministry of Commerce calls it rebalancing. The Financial Times interprets it as signaling, a reminder that agricultural imports like rare earths can be weaponized quietly. Trump responds with a televised claim that China needs us more than we need them, but trade statistics undermine that assertion. In 2024, U.S. exports to China totaled $143 billion, while Chinese exports to the U.S. reached $439 billion, according to Commerce Department data. The leverage is not symmetrical, the exposure is. By mid-December, the White House receives another shock. Beijing's customs agency begins denying export clearance for magnet shipments to certain U.S. defense contractors. Reuters cites 3 suppliers whose export licenses were returned for further documentation. That phrase, bureaucratic on paper, translates into weeks of delay in practice. In Brussels, diplomats read the pattern as calculated ambiguity, China demonstrating that it can comply with WTO norms while throttling supply through paperwork. The result is plausible deniability backed by material control. Late in the afternoon, Trump walks into a press room. President Xi is trying to strong-arm us, he says. He doesn't want depression for his country, and neither do I. The comment triggers confusion across markets. Within hours, the S&P 500 recovers 2% on expectations of negotiation, but nothing in Beijing changes. Export licenses remain frozen. The National Security Council briefs reporters anonymously. We are reviewing all options. Translation: Washington has no immediate answer. Meanwhile, analysts in Shanghai notice a deeper play. By curbing exports of battery technology, China ensures that any Western firm building gigafactories abroad will need Chinese engineers or patents. Reuters, in November 2025, quoted the French mining group Eramet, noting that Beijing's new licensing regime, well, it channels value to nations willing to cooperate on Chinese terms. Cooperation, not confrontation, but on Beijing's timeline. Across the Pacific, U.S. automakers issue warnings. GM announces that its next-generation Lithium cells could face material supply uncertainty. Tesla delays its Nevada expansion into mid-2026. Ford resumes battery partnership with CATL in 2026 after clarity on export rules. Every decision, in a way, loops back to Beijing's paperwork. By nightfall, the Treasury Crisis Desk delivers a final estimate. The combined cost of supply disruptions in EVs, agriculture, and defense will shave 0.4% off U.S. GDP in 2026, which is roughly $120 billion, if the restrictions persist through year-end. Those numbers, by the way, come from the IMF's December 2025 update, citing trade-induced output drag. Trump tweets about winning big against China and having China cornered. But honestly, data doesn't echo that sentiment. China's December industrial output rose 5.3% year-on-year, while U.S. manufacturing output fell 1.7%, according to the Federal Reserve's G17 report. Beijing's pain is theoretical. Washington's is measurable. The cameras stay fixed on the president's podium, yet the real story unfolds elsewhere. In shipping manifests, factory delays, and unpaid farm loans. Beijing hasn't just cut off exports, it has exposed the illusion of American self-sufficiency. And as midnight approaches, aides hand Trump the latest number from the Department of Energy projected U.S. battery independence by 2030, 0%. We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.